Hi, I'm Leslie Meredith with Breakbulk Events and Media. I'm here in Houston at Breakbulk Americas, and with me in the studio is Stephen Todd, who's representing SCRNA, right? Tell us what that stands for.
You bet. We're the Specialized Carriers and Rigging Association. We're made up of about 1,400 carrier and crane companies from throughout the world that primarily move and lift, literally the world as we say it, but in layman's terms, we move and lift the large, oversized, overweight loads. We were just looking at the space shuttle behind us, and that's a move our members have frequently made over the years as the space shuttles have been retired and moved to museums.
All right, okay. So you just did a showcase for us, a presentation. Tell us what that was about.
Sure. Our carriers, in order to move space shuttles and other such oversized objects, have to obtain, in some cases, dozens and dozens of what are called oversized overweight permits throughout in the United States, would be both states and local cities and counties. And in doing so, our industry comes into contact with state government officials. They have something we want, and we need to play by their rules in terms of filling out the applications properly, and most importantly, being honest and full of integrity that once those permits are issued to us, we follow those permits to a T. And unfortunately, Leslie, as we discussed in our showcase, occasionally our carrier industry fails to properly interact with state government permitting officials, fails to properly carry out all the small print on permits, and because we move such large objects like space shuttles and such, when we make a mistake out on the road, which thankfully is few and far between, but when we make a mistake with the size of our loads, it can be catastrophic. It can be $20, $30 million bridge structures totally destroyed. It can be construction zones just totally ripped out. It can be to our detriment, carriers running off route and incurring $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 roads. So it's imperative, as I said in the showcase, that we follow the procedures properly in interacting with permit officials, and that we understand that they're human like we're human, and that we attempt through interpersonal relationships, making sure we're not only following the letter of the law to a T, but sometimes there are unwritten policies and procedures that you need to follow from one region to another. So it's important that we make and maintain great working relationships with state governments.
That sounds, excuse me, that sounds good. And you have some background in that, I understand.
I do. I spent a fair number of years in a previous life with the Illinois Department of Transportation, where amongst my duties under me was the office that issued oversized overweight loads. And if you've ever attempted to move an oversized object through the city of Chicago or one of the collar counties, you'll know it's a challenge. And all the credit to my staff and the carriers in moving those loads through the Chicago area.
So for carriers, what advice can you give them specifically when they know they're going to have a complex transport that crosses, well, it sounds like it's not just state lines, but counties, cities? How do you manage that process?
Sure. Depending on the size of the load, you may want to first reach out to the state governments 6 months or more out, sit down and explain to them exactly what the move is going to entail. We say measure, measure, measure. What we mean by that in our industry is all too often these tragedies that occur that I discussed in the showcase could have been prevented if the driver or the dispatcher or whomever, pilot car operator, at some point or another would have taken one more measurement to ensure that that load could indeed fit under that particular bridge. Integrity, we preach that over and over again. We're talking about $1 million moves, manufacturers screaming down carriers' necks to get that move moving yesterday.
Oh, right, time pressure can impact that.
Time pressure, too often we're tempted to go ahead and make that move. So integrity, getting out in the front, filling out those applications correctly, but most importantly, once those permits are issued, as I said earlier, can't stress this enough, even though the driver may have received what he thought was the same identical permit 3 times earlier that week, read that individual and unique permit each and every time it's issued. One little route might have been changed, one little provision may have been changed, and the next thing you know, we've got a bridge hit and possibly, God forbid, a fatality or such to deal with.